Hi everyone, I'm Ashley from Studio with Ash and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be taking this free roadside fine dresser and turning it into this. Stay tuned to see how I do it. I was so excited to find a free roadside dresser that appeared to be in pretty good shape. When I brought it home, I turned it around and saw that it was West Elm. I use West Elm for inspiration a lot when I'm coming up with designs, so I was super excited to get to work on one of their originals. With any roadside finds though, they are often left outside for who knows how long, which means you need to spend extra time cleaning it all up. I used Krud Kutter, which is one of my favorite products to use to really cut through the grime on old furniture, but I will tell you that I'm not a fan of the smell. I'll often use Simple Green because it's just as effective and just smells better too. Instead of jumping straight to sanding, I opted to use my carbide scraper to help remove the caked on grime. This has become my go-to tool when prepping furniture for either paint or stain. I like it more than sanding because I don't have to use as many sanding sheets, so it actually saves a lot of money. Let me know in the comments if you've ever used a carbide scraper or if you want some more information about it, maybe like a tutorial. To smooth out the remaining finish after using the carbide scraper, I grabbed my orbital sander and 220 grit sandpaper. 220 grit sandpaper will make the surface nice and smooth in preparation for paint. I sanded down all the surfaces I plan to paint. You'll hear people refer to this as scuff sanding because you're scuffing up the surface. I plan to leave the base solid wood, so I started using 120 grit sandpaper for this part before switching over to 180 grit to help remove the finish faster. I'm using my Surf Prep sander, which is a great versatile sander and the perfect size for areas like these. While the dresser was on its back, I decided to go ahead and tape off the base just because it's easier to do it now before I start painting it. Afterwards, I flipped the dresser back over because I wanted to inspect the problem area on its surface. So I have sanded the dresser, and I know you can't even really see this. You can see that there's some damage here, but in order to tell what the extent of the damage is, you need to feel it because there's some lumpiness going on here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand it down further, probably reach the particle board that's underneath this, and then I'm gonna put some Bondo over top of it to act as a, almost like a sealer, so that any paint that gets on the particle board will not create a bubbly effect. That's really what causes those bubbles is particle board does not like water, so it bubbles anytime water gets onto it, and you can feel the bubbling here. So I am going to sand this down, and I will show you what particle board looks like. I'm using 120 grit sandpaper here just to get down to that surface. I think it might be particle board underneath or MDF. Regardless, neither one likes water and I needed to sand it smooth. So I grabbed Bondo, a putty knife, and something to mix it on. This is what the surface looks like up close, and we really want to get this Bondo in every surface there so that it is a barrier to anything going on its surface. Bondo all-purpose putty is a really great filler to use in situations like these. It easily fills and patches and even seals that area. And it's non-shrinking, and it's not water-based, this particular type. So it's really safe for areas like these, and really my go-to whenever I have particle board damage. I'm using my putty knife to really push the Bondo down into the particle board so it fills up that area to ensure it's nice and sealed. I then realized there were a lot of different gouges on this dresser, and Bondo is a great product to use on deep scratches like that, so I went ahead and applied it to those problem areas because I already had the Bondo mixed up. Let me know in the comments below if you need more information on how to use Bondo. I forgot to record this part, but after the Bondo dried, which is only about 20 minutes, I sanded it off with 220 grit sandpaper until the surface was nice and smooth. However, the Bondo did not get into those areas like I needed it to, like you can see on that picture there. So I went ahead with plan B and used my favorite oil-based primer. Now I used oil-based because again, particle board does not like water, so oil-based is fine. And I just sprayed that on and decided to go ahead and prime the rest of the dresser. And this is what the dresser looked like after priming, but as you can tell, the problem area was still a problem area, and I was not confident that if I painted over it, that the texture would not come through like you're seeing there. So I opted to grab some sandpaper and sand it down with 120 Grit Sandpaper until it was nice and smooth again. So I opted to grab Rust-Oleum's Automotive Primer that is a filler and is sandable. I went ahead and sprayed that on in hopes that it would fill in that textured area, leaving it nice and smooth. While it dried, I moved on to prepping the drawers. The design I was going for called for a lot of trim on the drawer fronts, and to speed up this process, I bought pull wrap, which is just pieces of MDF with oak veneer covering it, and it's all attached to this thick sheet of paper-like material. It is so easy to work with. I first measured the size I would need to cover the bottom 2 rows of the drawers. The top 2 drawers would have a special arc on it, so I would save that part for later. I used a couple wood clamps to hold the pull wrap in place and then a jigsaw to cut it. The pull wrap wasn't big enough to cover the full drawer, so I had to cut a couple of pieces and attach them separately. I will tell you that your cuts don't have to be perfect. Mine definitely were not. I'll show you how I fixed that a little later. I then placed the 2 pieces of pull wrap on top of the drawer so I could cut off the excess of the second piece. And I just cut it off using scissors. If you remember, it's just a paper-like backing on the pull wrap, so it's super easy to cut whenever you're cutting vertically. Pull wrap recommends that you use liquid nails to adhere it onto surfaces, so I applied it on the dresser and placed the pull wrap on, and then grabbed the drawer that would be installed under it and lined up the pull wrap so that the wood trim would be in a straight line and glued it on. Next up is to cut the arches for the top 2 drawers. You'll need to do a little math to get the arch to fit in the space you want, but it's so easy. Just hang in there. If you need help calculating your space, leave a comment below and I will help you. My degree is in engineering, so math is a fun pastime for me. The only 2 measurements you need are the width of your drawer and the height of it, and you plug it into this equation and you are ready to go. I then grabbed a piece of scrap particle board, screwed a screw towards the bottom, and tied a piece of string to it. This is going to act as the center point of your circle. Then the measurement you got from the math equation is how long you want your string to be. That's the circumference of the circle. This took a few tries for me to get the string size just right, but once I did, I took a marker and tied it onto the string. I then pull the string tight and draw as I'm putting that same amount of pressure on, so it creates a nice even arch. I then took my jigsaw and cut out the arch. The arch is now my template that I can use for the pull wrap. I measured the height of the drawer just so the top of the arch would fit on it, and then cut off the bottom so that it would be a perfect fit for whenever I traced it on the pull wrap to cut it out. I lined the template up on the pole wrap and used a pencil to trace the part that fit on the arch. The other part I will cut separately. After clamping it down, I used a jigsaw to cut it out, just like the others. And here it is, but you can tell that there's a little bit of unevenness on the top part. So I'm just gonna take some 220 grit sandpaper, fold it over, and lightly sand that off until it's nice and smooth. Afterwards, I line up all the drawers so that they line up evenly, and I will glue on the top arch just like I did the bottom two drawers. And to clean up those uneven cuts that I showed you earlier, I'm just going to take my sander with 220 grit sandpaper and lightly sand until it's nice and even with the drawers. It was finally time to paint the dresser, and I decided to spray it. So I'm using my Home Right sprayer, and I'm painting with Melange 1's paint line. It has a great finish and just one of my favorite type of furniture paints to use. Afterwards, I did touch-up paint around the drawers. And a reminder of where we started with this old roadside fine dresser to where we are now. And I am seriously in love with this look, and I'm so glad that I finally tried out this new technique. Let me know if this is a technique that you would like to try too. And thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thank you.